It's the year of the reissue, and the month of March went crazy, with Mafex re-releasing figures like Wolverine, Ben Reilly, Venom, Gambit, and a few more. Or maybe that was all of them, I can't really remember. Anyway, March also saw the start of X-Men 97, which is probably the reason for half of these releases. And next up on the agenda is this Mafex Cyclops. He's strong. And for more in-depth analysis just like that, stay tuned, because we're about to talk about him right now. What's going on, folks? Kinda Collecting here. Welcome back to the channel. Now, if this is your first video, again, welcome. And if you've been there before, you know the routine. We pretty much family now, so what up, Oos? Don't forget to do all the things that help the channel grow. Like, subscribe, and tell your imaginary friends about me. If you don't, tell them not to. When I initially got into collecting, I had no intentions on actually completing any teams, so I only started with one X-Man. And then I got another. And then another. And then one more. And once I started, I said, okay, let me just stick to the original team from the animated series. And if you're gonna do that, you gotta have a Cyclops. He's the leader. And I was fine with just having the Marvel Legends version, but then Mafex decided to go on a reissue bonanza, and I said, alright, if I can get my hands on them, I'll see what it's hitting for. Worst case scenario, I'll just resell them if I don't like them. Spoiler alert, I'm not reselling them. This Cyclops is the bee's knees, the kit's capoodle, all that in a bag of chips. His proportions are perfectly exaggerated for a superhero. He's got more than enough accessories, but not too many to the point where it's overwhelming, and the articulation does everything it needs to do, even in the parts where you'd expect it to fail. Overall though, it's a figure that was nowhere on my radar, but now that I picked him up, I'm glad I did. The details on Cyclopsy, nope, not doing that again, it's not a nickname. The details on Cyclops are on two sides of the spectrum for a dude that's basically two colors. On one end, the deep metallic blue in this dude is so amazing. Like, from afar it looks good, but up close, when you see the different specks of paint as the light hits it just right, it's so nice. And it matches perfectly against the matte yellow of the rest of his suit. That being said, on the other end of the spectrum, my one big complaint about the details is that there's not much that breaks up that yellow paint job. All the straps, buckles, and pouches are one solid matte yellow with some subtle orange shading, but there's nothing that really brings out those features. It's very model kitty, and I said before that his proportions were exaggerated, and I meant that in a good way. His chest is wide and beefy, his long legs, while not as beefy, are still pretty strong, and the muscle definition from top to bottom, front and back are very comic booky, very Jim Lee. Some people don't like it, but I for one do. Now, a lot of people will say that the Marvel Legends Cyclops are just as good as Mafex and only at a fraction of the cost. And I agree mostly. The Marvel Legends are great, but by the time you're done mixing and matching and kit bashing to get the perfect version of a Legends, you end up at the same price point of a premium figure. With that being said, let's take a look at the accessories. So for starters, Cyclops comes with a pair of the old Mink Minks, a pair of hey how are yous, and he comes with two gene pleasers that he can use to trigger his optic blast. Scott also comes with 3 head sculpts, one stern face, one gritted teeth sculpt, and a civilian head with his traditional burgundy shades. And the cool thing about Cyclops' action heads is that the visors are all interchangeable, and he's technically got 4 of them. One inactive visor, the infamous smoking visor that I'm just waiting for to break, and a visor that has space for his 2 blast effects. And his blast effects are dope too. One's a more direct spread and the other's more wide, and I love how the color transitions from white to red. It's a great touch. And the reason I said he technically has 4 is because the last one is just for him to carry around. It doesn't actually go on his head. Now, the one thing I wish they would have added is a yelling head sculpt for when Cyclops goes all out. Like, no shades, visors off, come get some. That would have been so mean. But still, that's a lot of accessories for Mafex. That's like Spider-Man levels of accessories. Okay, maybe not Spider-Man, but it's more than what Wolverine comes with. and that alone justifies the price for me, especially if you're able to get them at the import rate. So in my Wolverine review, I talked about how my Mafex figures always have some sort of leg tightness. Well, I'm proud to announce that this figure straight out of the box had no such issues. The arms rotate and articulate with ease, the legs swivel and bend effortlessly, and I thought the ab crunch would be hindered by the chest strap, but it really doesn't. It moves with the torso when it needs to, and it also gets out of the way when it has to. Now, it does prevent the torso from twisting to the extreme, but I don't see a world where you have to stretch Cyclops that far. If I had to point out one potentially big flaw though, it's that the wrist peg is dumb short, so the hand pops off really easy when you're trying to bend them. Nah, they won't fall off on their own and they're not loose, but a little bit of pressure and all in all though, it mostly makes for a beautiful articulation scheme, and the joints are the definition of buttery smooth. Now, one thing to look out for in Mafex figures, and it's not too much you can do to prevent it, but whenever you are moving the legs, especially if the trunks are a different color, there's going to be paint rub. Again, not much you can really do about it, and the faster you accept it, the quicker you can move past it. And now that we've all coped with the facts, let's pose them up. Oh, and one more thing. Toe articulation. When you're building a team, you want to have a leader that people can look up to, both figuratively and literally. It's kind of hard to take orders from somebody who can't ride a roller coaster. Looking at you, Logan. Now let's take a look at some size comparisons. First off, we have the Legends X-Men 97 Nightcrawler and the Mafex Wolverine. I would have started with a Jean Grey, but I don't have one yet. I told you, I didn't plan for this to happen, so I got what I got. Leave me alone. But these two work really well together. Wolverine is short, though he could be shorter, and Kurt is tall but nowhere near as bulky as the other two. Omega level threat detected. Here's the Legends X-Men 97 Storm and the Mafex Age of Apocalypse Magneto. Storm's hair makes her look taller than Cyclops, but she's not, so that's cool. And I like that Magneto is a little bit taller than Scott. I mean, he is a temporary leader after all. Sticking with the leader vibes, next up we have the leader of the Avengers with Marvel Legends Captain America and the Revoltech Iron Man. Which one's the leader? I don't know. You be the judge. Anytime I see Cap standing taller than somebody, I gotta remember he's on that juice. But I don't think Tony should be as tall. However, he's a dude in a suit and his suit can do some crazy things. Changing his height is the least of the crazy. Next we have the leader of the Power Rangers with the Lightning Collection Remastered Red Ranger. And I'm still mad they gave him this dragon shield and then put the line on hold, because now this dude is a Pebble Beach to find at a good price. And on the other end, we have the Ninja Turtles fearless leader, the best action IDW Leonardo. And I think these three scale really well together too. Both are teenagers and both are shorter than an adult. Now we have the leader of the Autobots with the Flame Toys IDW Optimus Prime model kit, and the leader of Andy's Toys with the Revoltech Woody from Toy Story. And obviously Prime is not in scale, but I spent a lot of time putting them together, so y'all gonna see my doggone work. And I think this Woody is super funny to look at on camera. I mean, Toy Story is my jam. Best Disney franchise, hands down. 4-0 in the finals, no whammies, don't fight me, fight your mama. Switching lanes, here's the Legend Spider-Man from his Amazing Friends 3-pack and someone who's not one of Spidey's friends with the Legends Deluxe Venom. And I'm pretty sure he's a knockoff, but he's a darn good one, and I dig the scale between these guys. You could squeeze them into a Marvel vs. Capcom display even though they're not the same designs, but it could work. And if you do want to get your Marvel vs. Capcom juices flowing, here's the Jada Toys Ryu and Chun-Li. And if you didn't already know, Jada pairs really well with Mafex, and at no surprise, these look good too. And I had to save the best comparison for last. here's both Mafex and Marvel Legends Cyclops side by side. And depending on what vibe you're going for, this is really a toss-up. Obviously the colors are more vibrant on the Legends and he's a tad taller, but the pure beef on the Mafex with that metallic dark paint, ooh, both figures are so sweet. Just remember, to get a complete version of the Legends, you kinda have to buy multiple Cyclopses. This VHS one, for example, only comes with one head and 0 blast effect, so do with that information what you will. So my overall goal in collecting is to find the one quintessential version of each character, and I think that if you have this figure, he checks that box. Semicolon, however, comma, I also think you can check that same box if you have the Marvel Legends. I mean, the main benefit of having this Mafex Cyclops is that you don't have to go out searching for the right accessories to go along with them. Everything's in one package. And while the Legends does an amazing job capturing the likeness of the animated series, Mafex does an equally great job doing the same on the comic book side. So I guess it's all personal preference. I know I gave this figure a lot of praise in the beginning and it's well deserved, the figure is great, but if you're asking me if this figure is a must-have, I think my answer might be no. And it's not a slight to Mafex. Hasbro just has two great alternatives out there. By the way, I'm aware that the X-Men 97 Cyclops has a lot of the same accessories as the Mafex. I'm just not a big fan of the face scan to that guy. Anyway, man, that does it for today's video. Let me know where you stand on Cyclops as a figure, a leader, and a father. Stay tuned for the shots at the end, and until next time, protect your peace, stay young at heart, and remember, we're all kind of collecting something. Peace.